Family channels have gained a massive popularity over the years, with many of these channels amassing millions of followers. In a perfect world, having a family channel seems like a dream. You get to stay home with your kids, record your everyday life, and make a very comfortable living. There are some family channels that do just that. They record their day-to-day life, and their videos are mainly centered around the adults, with the kids just being sprinkled in here and there. Unfortunately, as these channels have grown, people have started to push the limits. The kids became the main focus of the videos, with clickbait titles where their most personal and private moments are just another dramatic thumbnail. One channel that's guilty of doing just that is 8 Passengers.
Hi guys, I'm Kevin.
I'm Ruby.
We're the drivers of the 8 Passengers. We're mom and dad. We thought it would be fun to just say hi and introduce our family. Got a lot of fun things planned today. We're going to celebrate Ruby's
birthday!
Hope we have fun today, and we'll talk to you guys later.
And if you're not good, I will turn this car around and we will go home.
Seriously.
Behave.
8 Passengers is a YouTube channel with over 2 million subscribers, and it's run by Ruby and Kevin Franke. Their videos are centered around their lives as a family of 8, and their 6 kids range in ages from 8 to 19, with the 2 oldest being Chad 17 and Sherry 19. Now, 8 Passengers isn't your typical family channel. They're Mormon and they belong to the Church of Latter-day Saints, and their videos are heavily based on their faith. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just giving you guys a heads up. This isn't your typical Ace family. They posted their first video back in 2015, which was a gender reveal for their youngest daughter, Eve. They had their first huge break back in July of 2015 when their video titled "Baby Climbs Out of a Crib" hit 20 million views. The videos kind of started off as home movies, just documenting their very normal life. But as they grew, the content became more planned out and more focused around the kids. By August of 2017, their channel had hit 1 million subscribers, and that's when I think things really started to get out of hand. As the views and subscribers grew, the videos became more and more focused on their kids' most personal and private moments, with titles like Sherry's First Date. Did Chad really lose his phone for the summer? I talked to your teacher. Diagnosing why Julie blinks so much. And that's just the start. There's been so many videos that completely cross the line when it comes to personal boundaries. They've also filmed really personal moments between Ruby and her daughter when her daughter was so sick that she was crawling into bed and laying on the bathroom floor. Now, I want you guys to think back to when you were growing up and you were really sick in bed with something like strep throat, just feeling horrible and wanting to be left alone. Imagine now being an adult and knowing all of those really personal moments were put on the internet for millions of people to see. Imagine knowing that you really didn't get a choice in the matter either, because you were too young to really know the downside of being put all over the internet. That's why so many people don't like family channels. A parent's job is to provide for their kids, but in a way, family channel kids are providing for the parents. They're the reason these parents can stay home and buy houses and cars and live a life of luxury. But that's not the only reason why people don't like 8 Passengers. Over the years, Ruby and Kevin's parenting style has come under massive scrutiny. People feel like they're extremely harsh with their punishments, especially when it comes to their oldest son, Chad. In June of 2019, it seemed like Ruby made Chad get on camera and talk about why his phone was taken away from him for the entire summer. Chad was in the middle of playing with his friends outside and having a good time, and then Ruby decided to whip out her camera and start making her son explain his personal issues to her followers.
We gotta do a little update here for a second.
I had therapy and I got kicked out of my school. Woo! Yeah.
Okay. Everybody's asking if you still have your phone taken away for the summer.
Yep, I do.
Yes.
Sadly.
And
it's not her fault, it's mine.
When will you learn, Chad? Your actions have consequences. A lot of you guys say, Oh, you shouldn't get mad at him for bad grades. They try their hardest. You, on the other end,
try my hardest.
don't know that he
Cheated on a
tried
test.
his.
It just goes to show you the complete lack of privacy that these kids seem to have. Whatever was going on sounds like an issue that should have been sorted out in private, maybe with the parents and the school, not dissected for millions of random people online. The next incident with Chad happened a few months later in August of 2019. Ruby was filming daily vlogs, and people were wondering why Chad was missing from all of her videos during the summer. People were wondering if he was maybe at summer camp having fun, but the reality is much darker. Ruby and Kevin posted a video titled, "Where is Chad?" where they talk about their decision to send their son to wilderness camp.
Chad today has just entered the Anasazi Foundation Wilderness Therapy Program, where he's going to spend the next 8 to 10 weeks living in the
Anasazi Desert.
Yeah, the desert mountains of Arizona. And he'll be with counselors and other youth that are trying to figure some things out. Chad needs to develop some very basic maturity and skills that he's going to need as an adult. You know, no one's forcing him, no one's dragging him. He's actually really looking forward to this.
Even though Ruby and Kevin are making it sound like it was Chad's decision and they make it out to be some great thing, wilderness camps don't have the best reputation. So many people have come out and talked about how negatively these programs have affected them and how horribly they're run. There's tons of videos on TikTok from adults who were sent to these programs as teens, and they talk about the PTSD and severe emotional trauma that they've been left with because of these camps. Now, I'm not saying that the one Chad was sent to is anything like some of these really bad ones, but in general, a lot of people don't love the idea of them. The one Chad was sent to is called Anasazi, and it's located in Arizona. According to Google reviews, it seems like people have good things to say about the program, but that's not everyone's experience. There are a handful of negative reviews calling the program just a long camping trip. One person said there was no support for their family after the trip ended. Another person said the price was $38,000 for 8 weeks. And another person criticized their lack of a real medical treatment plan. Chad did a Q&A after he returned from the program, and to me, it sounded pretty rehearsed.
Okay, what was your biggest takeaway from Anasazi?
I'm a good boy.
Thank you. What kinds of things did you eat?
It was all vegan. No offense to the vegans, but it sucked.
Did you immediately love Anasazi, or did it take some time to get used to it?
I'm gonna be honest, I kind of immediately loved it. Most of the boys hated it, but I kind of just accepted it.
The following year in 2020, Ruby posted a video to her channel with Chad, and he said he hasn't had a bedroom in over 6 months.
For 7 months, and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October, and they gave my room back like 2 weeks ago.
He said he played a prank on his little brother where he told him they were going to Disneyland. He had him pack his bag and get ready to leave, and then told him he was just joking, and he made his little brother cry. Obviously not the nicest prank to play on your little brother, but it's really not the worst either.
Oh, I'll give you the reason why I lost my bedroom. I think so. I think this is the reason. At least this is the reason that's been in my head. It's pretty funny, but now that I look back, I mean, it's pretty depressing.
No, we never told our viewers.
No bed for half a year over a dumb prank between 2 brothers. Imagine making your kid go to wilderness camp where he has to sleep outside in a sleeping bag for like 2 months, only for him to come home and make him sleep on a beanbag. Not only is that extremely excessive, but it's also bad for his back, his posture, and probably his overall health. I can't imagine anyone sleeping well on a beanbag for that long, and sleep affects your behavior. How does Ruby expect Chad to be on his best behavior when he's literally treated like a criminal over a prank? Later on in the same video, both Chad and his sister say they don't have any friends because they have no phones to contact them with, and they don't even know where their friends live.
No, I have no friends.
You can play with friends.
No, like I don't have friends.
I don't have friends either.
I literally like told my friends I'm not hanging out with them anymore
Because they're
they say some pretty messed up stuff.
I don't even know where they live. They're pretty far away.
So-
Yeah, sharing with everyone the fact that you don't have a group of friends, that's really hard.
After this video was posted, more and more people started talking about how cruel and harsh these punishments were. A petition was created asking CPS to investigate the family, and it has over 17,000 signatures. After getting tons of backlash, Ruby got on her Instagram stories and tried to explain her reasoning behind taking away Chad's bedroom.
So today's video we posted about, I didn't know Chad was going to start talking and explain what some of the outcomes of his behaviors have been, and he did. And I told him, I said, you know, we can cut that out, we can edit it if you want. And he's like, no. He's like, it's fine. I'm totally fine having it in. I was like, all right, that's great. So I didn't anticipate all the upset. However, listening to all of your comments and your feedback and your feelings around things, it totally makes sense to me why you're angry and why you're upset.
Kevin tried to say that a lot of the behaviors that they were doing, which people were calling out, were actually recommended to them by professionals.
Long before we started YouTube, there were a lot of behavioral and emotional challenges that we were dealing with our kids. And we've been consulting with mental health and emotional health professionals for years. And the things that we show and share and the things that many of you are criticizing and calling offensive are actually things that mental health professionals have counseled us to do.
Ruby made the argument that during Chad's time in wilderness camp, he was sleeping on the ground without a bed, and that program was run by professionals, so sleeping on a beanbag at home must be okay.
We got accused of child abuse when we sent Chad to Anasazi. Guess what? The first thing that they did was take a bed away. They don't have beds. So Chad slept on the hard ground for months, and it's, you know, it's run by psychologists and therapists, and if not having a bed was psychologically damaging, then they wouldn't have suggested that. They wouldn't be doing that. They'd be giving all the kids beds, but they don't.
Then Kevin pretty much tries to gaslight everyone and says if you're mad over this, then it's probably a reflection on you.
So we've learned through experience that when people get triggered or get upset by something, it usually is because that something means something about them. And so if this experience has been hard for you to watch, how we've parented our kids and how we've held consequences with them and placed firm boundaries and held them to those expectations and encourage them and reward them when they show good judgments. If you're triggered by all of that, then that's probably a good chance for you to look at yourself and ask, what about me is this situation telling me? Why am I upset by how they are choosing to parent?
Another major thing that Ruby's been called out for is the time that she let her 6-year-old daughter go hungry at school. One day, her daughter forgot her lunch for the day, and the teacher called Ruby and asked if she could drop off lunch, and Ruby said no, she can go hungry.
Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? This happens quite often when you're raising children, because I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having lunch. And it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with a lunch. But I responded and just said, Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry. And hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her a lunch. My hope is that she'll be hungry and come home and go, oh man, that was really painful being hungry all day. I will make sure to always have a lunch with me.
She did this again with her youngest son. He called Ruby and asked for a lunch, and she once again said no.
Sorry to tell you this, honey, but unless you find a friend who's willing to share some of their food with you, I don't think you're going to be able to eat. But if you're not responsible for your lunch and your lunch money, that's the natural consequence. And I'm really sorry you're learning this the hard way. I will have a wonderful, yummy snack. Just hang in there today and just make up your mind. You're going to be really careful and make sure you grab your stuff when you go to school next time.
Keep in mind, this boy was like 6 years old at the time. Expecting a 6-year-old to remember their lunch every day and never forget it is a little bit much. A media outlet called Insider talked to Ruby and Kevin about the lunch incident with their daughter, and this is what they had to say. In response, the Franks told Insider the clip didn't show that the children go to a school that's a 45-minute drive from their house and that Eve had 2 hours left of school that day. She came home 2 hours later and had a wonderful, fulfilling snack, Kevin said. And you know what? She never forgot her lunch again. So it's a way to teach our children how to live responsibly and be masters of themselves rather than dependent upon somebody else to always take care of them, which is totally fine. I can understand them living super far away and not being able to drive just for 2 hours left of the day. But they could have prevented this from happening. Sure, they can teach their daughter about responsibility and giving her the task of packing and taking her lunch with her, but as parents, they should also be aware. They should have noticed going out the door that she didn't have her lunch packed, and then they could have maybe reminded her. We aren't talking about someone in middle school. We're talking about a 6-year-old. This is yet another reason why so many people consider their parenting to be extreme. Even with all of that being said, we've only just scratched the surface. After that Change.org petition was started, CPS actually did pay Ruby and Kevin a visit. Kevin told Insider that when CPS walked in unannounced, their youngest daughter and Ruby were doing a puzzle and baking bread. They said the workers were so embarrassed that they even had to make the visit and apparently apologized to them and closed the case. So, where are 8 passengers today? Their oldest daughter Sherry has left home and she's enjoying her life at school and still posts on her YouTube channel sometimes. But the rest of the family has kind of disappeared. The last upload to the 8 Passengers YouTube channel was over 6 months ago now. After all the backlash, Ruby started posting less frequently, which also contributed to fewer views. This should be a good thing though. Not posting means they aren't blasting their kids' private lives all over the internet, which hopefully means the kids are finally getting some much-deserved privacy. Unfortunately, Ruby has just moved her harsh parenting style onto another platform. In this next part of the video, we're going to be talking about Ruby and Kevin's new channel called Connections, why people find it so harmful, and why it's apparently torn their family apart. In 2020, Ruby and Kevin started posting on this already established YouTube channel called Connections. Connections is described as being a personal life coach, and they post videos from different members speaking about their principles of truth, and they give advice to people who write in. They also have a Facebook group and other classes and workshops. The description for the organization says, Connections is grounded in 3 core principles of truth: being honest, responsible, and humble. This group is designed to help you 1. Understand how principles apply to your life, and 2. Use your agency to use principles as a tool and a weapon against distortion. Get curious, stay humble, we are all learning together. And those are words you're gonna hear a lot while we talk about this group. In all of Ruby's videos on the Connections YouTube page, she keeps repeating those same 3 words.
We are surrounded quite literally by people who are not learning principles of truth, and they're justifying being dishonest. They don't see anything wrong with being irresponsible. In fact, here's in many instances, people profit off of being not humble.
Being honest, being responsible, and being humble. But no one really knows what it means. Someone on the 8 Passengers Reddit page tried to explain what they think it means, and this is what they had to say. I think living in truth means following the views of Jody and Ruby. What they would probably say is living how the Lord wants. So living in distortion is basically doing anything that goes against Jody and Ruby's views. Their definition of living in distortion would probably be something along the lines of not following the way set out by the Lord. So yeah. Anyways, the first Connections video to get tons of backlash was titled Christmas with No Presents, Live Couples Workshop. And it's as bad as the title seems. Ruby told her little babies, who were both under the age of 10, that Santa wasn't coming this year because they were misbehaving.
I'm scared to share this because knowing people these days, I don't know if people are gonna, how they're gonna respond. Kevin and I have decided that we are going to give the gift of truth to them this year for Christmas. We are We're going to give them the gift of boundaries, and we're going to give them the gift of repentance. And we told them that this year they are not going to be visited by Santa.
To make it even worse, they were still giving their older kids gifts in front of them on Christmas morning, but they weren't giving their little kids anything.
We let them know that the Christmas morning, their 4 older siblings will be getting Christmas presents to open, and that they will have the gift of love from their dad and I.
Like, these are babies. They don't have that many Christmases left where that magic is still alive and you fully believe. And they tore their one last memorable Christmas away from them. I would love to know what exactly Ruby and Kevin are classifying as misbehaving. Like, what was it that they really did that was so bad to make them sit out on Christmas morning while their older siblings open gifts? Ruby and Kevin said they're still giving their kids the gift of love, and they went on this whole tangent about how love isn't consumerism.
I watch all these Christmas shows that I used to just love, because I'd feel all warm and fuzzy. And this year I watch them and I'm like, oh, gross. Because warm and fuzzy in the show is always about, at the end, the kid just got whatever they wanted. And the world has this message, and society has bought into it, that love looks like commercialism.
As you can probably guess, the people in the comments weren't very happy with Ruby and Kevin. Here's what people had to say. Giving your child a gift of love is not a present that should be received on Christmas, as if it is this amazing gift that they only get once a year. The gift of love is something, as a parent, that is unconditional and should be given regardless of the circumstances, regardless of their behavior. They are kids, for crying out loud. They are allowed to act out and be selfish as long as they are being reprimanded correctly. Depriving your child of Christmas joy while their other siblings get to partake in it is a good way to gain resentment from your child now and in the future. Your parenting style is messy. You exploit these children, egregiously violate their privacy all over the internet, and make a profit. They are your cash cows. They pay the bills and you treat them like this? Well, since you feel so negatively about gifts, how about no one gets gifts, including you guys, and you all just experience the gift of love and repentance together? Because I'm sure you all have experienced a life of sin. People also pointed out that it was kind of interesting that Kevin and Ruby hate consumerism so much when it comes to giving their babies gifts at Christmas, but they don't seem to mind it when they're using their kids for their Instagram ads. Ruby's Instagram is filled with sponsorships from brands that typically always involve her kids. How come consumerism is fine when it's making them money, but not when it involves the joy of Christmas morning? The next video that got a ton of backlash has to do with a TikTok dance her daughter was doing in school. Ruby posted a video to the connections page titled, "Should Schools Be Endorsing TikTok?" Ruby explains that her 13-year-old, who's currently in middle school, is doing TikTok dances for their PE class. It's supposed to be one of those surprise flash mob dances, and the class was going to perform it in the middle of lunch one day for all the students. The problem Ruby had was that the song was a clean version of a song that's not so clean. Ruby ended up going to the school to complain and stormed out and left crying.
I said, I have a concern about the TikTok dances. And she said in the fall semester and in the spring semester, we need to have a performance. A flash mob is a great way to get it in. It's efficient. The kids love it. They have fun with it. And they are able to check off their performance for their grade. I said, my problem is the choice of songs. And she says, well, all the songs were approved by me.
The principal tried to explain to Ruby that the song was approved since it was a clean version of Flo Rida's Low song.
So you approved this song that has all of these lyrics in it. And she says, well, we're not dancing to those lyrics. It's just a portion.
They told Ruby that the song was used in a commercial for a grocery store called Smith's, and everyone just thought it would get the kids interested and involved.
And she says, I think it's really great because I actually really like it because Smith's used it in their commercial. It's part of pop culture. It's all over the place.
But Ruby wasn't having it.
And I said, so your standard, what you allow in your school is pop culture? what the kids really like and what shows up in commercials. That's your standard. I would hope that the principal where my kids go to school, that the standard would be truth, that the standard would be principles, that the standard would be morality.
At one point in the video, she breaks down crying, saying the school is introducing them to the world.
You are introducing them to the world.
She was offered to pull her kid out of the class if that made her feel better, but of course, she had to be the one in control and said this.
I am not here for anyone's comfort, including my daughter's. I'm not here to make her comfortable. Of course she can move classes, not because you said so, but because I said so. I'm the parent.
Like, how does Ruby expect her kids to go on and live a normal life when they're adults if they're this sheltered right now? I guarantee you, if her kid is in public school right now, they've probably heard worse than that song. I also don't know why she thinks that she has the right to demand a public school to conform to her beliefs and then push those beliefs on all the other students and teachers. If you don't like it, then take your kid out of school and homeschool them, or maybe enroll them in a private Mormon school. Ruby and Kevin did end up taking it all the way to the school board, and Kevin even did a speech at a school meeting about the song.
This past term, my 13-year-old daughter registered for a dance PE class. She was shocked to learn that the entire curriculum for the class was focused on replicating viral dance videos from the social media platform TikTok.
Imagine how embarrassing this is for the kids, knowing your parents were the ones to ruin everyone's fun. Being taken out of a class and all the kids know the reason why. The scary thing is, this advice doesn't just stop at their YouTube channel. It continues over on Facebook on a private connections Facebook group. Callum Markey actually went undercover and he went into this private group and did some digging into the type of content that's being posted over there, and it's pretty shocking. First off, the group is described as a support group for mothers to ask questions and receive feedback on parenting challenges. It calls Jody and Ruby mental health trainers who give truth-centered and principle-based training. I would personally love to see the qualifications that these two have to make them fit to be called mental health fitness trainers. Like, what does that even mean? Anyways, the stuff Markey uncovered in this group is truly shocking. Just listen to some of the so-called advice that he came across from Ruby.
And also what I love about this Facebook page is in the comment section for these videos, Ruby actually uses her own account to even reply to certain people who may disagree with her, and as you can imagine, it's a bit of a mess. Now an example of this is a video that Jody actually posted where she responds to a question about abortion, and I don't think it's going to be that much of a surprise when you find out that these people are against abortion. Now in the comments of this video, someone actually posted a very good question and said, you specifically said when a person decides to be sexual. What about when a person is forced into acts and creates a child? Is that different? To which Ruby actually responded to this question and said, you were looking for exceptions. You cannot learn remainders in division before understanding the principle of multiplication and division, and you cannot understand outliers in a graph before first understanding the standard. Jody is speaking of the principle of choice and accountability. There are no exceptions to principles ever.
It scares me so much that these people are actually giving parenting advice to God knows how many parents, and these parents are probably taking the advice and then making their kids' life hell. If you still aren't convinced, just head over to the reviews for connections. There's horrible reviews dating back years, way before Ruby was even involved. A lot of people now think that connections may be the reason behind Ruby's sudden harsh parenting style. Like I said earlier, at the start of the 8 Passengers YouTube channel, things seemed a little bit more relaxed. Of course, they were always a really religious Mormon family channel, but they weren't as intense as they are now. One example of this is Ruby's stance on her kids going to church. Back in 2018, Ruby said that she would never force her kids to attend church, and she would accept her kids and family no matter their beliefs.
My job as a parent is not to force them to do anything. I don't force my kids to go to church, and I don't force my kids to keep the commandments. I can't make them have the same values and principles I do. I've seen members of families stop talking to each other for decades because they didn't agree on a value. And I just think that's so sad, and I don't ever want that to happen in my house.
Fast forward to this year on the connections page.
Living in this home, which I provide, this is my home, and we go to church on Sundays to give thanks for that. And if you choose not to, abide by the expectations of this household, then you are in effect saying, I don't want to be part of this household. And that would be your choice. And you are welcome to leave.
Clearly things have changed drastically, and now it's affecting the family. Ruby has a really large family, and they're actually all online. They all have their very own YouTube channels, and every holiday or birthday or event, they all gather together and film. But in the last year or so, Ruby has been missing from her family's videos. Back in December, Ruby's sister Julie posted a vlog of a retirement party the whole family threw for their dad, and Ruby and Kevin were nowhere to be seen. Ruby's sister even responded to a comment about the whole situation, and this is what she had to say. Does Linda ever get a chance to see Ruby and her children? And the sister replied and said, she could if Ruby made the effort. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened in a while. Someone on Reddit also found a negative review left on the connections page, which Julie liked. The comment said, I've read enough reviews of your coaching service to realize that you're a dangerous woman and have inflicted much harm to many families and individuals. Safe to say, I think the connections page and the influence it has over Ruby might be affecting her relationship with the rest of the family. Ruby's husband Kevin actually did a workshop a few months ago, and he talked about how Ruby's family doesn't have principles of connection.
You ultimately, as the parents, have the responsibility to create an environment of honesty, responsibility, and humility within the walls of your own home, and to protect that environment from any outside forces. And I don't know why culturally we have this belief that if the outside force who is attacking my home, attacking my family is flesh and blood, they get a pass. If it was some total stranger coming up and attacking my family and trying to get me to do something that I knew was not in truth or that was violating the covenants that I've made with God, I would absolutely shut that individual out. So why does flesh and blood get a pass on that? And I've seen some questions in the Q&A and also in the comments of, what about my kids? What do I do with my kids? Do I give my kids access to their grandparents? And all of it boils down to what we've been talking about. One, are your grandparents and are your parents trying to use your children to control you and your family? If that's the case, then absolutely not. I would not give access to my kids.
It's crazy how quickly their views have changed. Only a few years ago, Ruby was talking about how sad it is when families drift apart over a difference of opinion. I wonder what caused the huge change of heart. Family isn't the only thing that Ruby has drifted from. She also made the decision to quit her 8 Passengers YouTube channel and rebrand all the social media. She changed her Instagram handle to Moms of Truth, and everyone was extremely confused.
A lot of you are going, wait a minute, I thought this is 8 Passengers. How come the name changed? My children are getting older. My kids are... Sherry has already flown the coop and Chad is closely behind her, and then before you know it, in a handful of years, all of my children will be gone. And I have a real powerful message. If you want to stick around, if you would like to learn, I hope you stay. The world has very many people have accused me of exploiting my children, and then those very people have turned around and exploited my children. And so I am not going to share my children or family with the world anymore in that way.
As happy as I am knowing that her kids' personal lives won't be put on display for millions of people to see on the vlogs, that doesn't mean they're completely getting their privacy back. Many of Ruby's workshops involve sharing personal and sometimes embarrassing stories about her kids. It's also scary because now Ruby is influencing hundreds, maybe even thousands of parents into parenting like her. It's so scary that someone can so easily call themselves a mental health trainer and somehow be qualified to hand out really sensitive advice to parents online. So yes, it is great that the vlogs seem to be done, but that doesn't mean what's happening now is any better. If anything, it may be even more concerning. Anyways guys, let me know what you think about everything down below. How do you feel about Ruby and Kevin's parenting style? Do you think that they're taking it too far? Or do you think they're doing nothing wrong? Also, let me know how you feel about connections and the fact that Ruby's handing out advice to parents online. Personally, I think it's kind of scary, but maybe that's just me. Let me know and I'll see you next time.